Hello, my friends. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Novella. Today is Monday, and normally I don't post a video today. But yesterday, Ollie from Criminoli asked a whole lot of questions about translations. Now, I can answer a big deal of them, a big part of them. It all depends on in what language the author writes to get translated. If it's a big language like Spanish or French or German or Chinese, or Mandarin Chinese or Japanese or English, of course, then it is easier to get your work translated. Sorry for the barking dog. For smaller languages like mine, Dutch, 16 million people can read and write Dutch, that's not a lot. Or smaller African languages, there are many small languages. It gets a lot more difficult to get translated because the gamble is a whole lot bigger. It's easier to translate a book that has sold 10 million copies in Spanish to have it translated into in English. That's normal because it's very likely that it will be a success in English too. Now, we have had a couple of selling successes, like Melting by Lise Sprit or The Discomfort of Evening by Marieke Lucas Reineveld. Those were translated. Lucas Marieke Reineveld with The Discomfort of Evening even won the International Booker, but nobody liked that book outside of Holland and Belgium. Nobody liked it because it's too regional. Same goes for Melting. I have seen a lot of people who hauled the book, but they never discussed the book. So I'm guessing it's not working either. So yeah, that you have to, especially in my language, the authors think it's cool and hip to write very regional with a lot of regional habits and things that only people from here can relate to. A good story is universal. Don't make it regional. It is universal. And you can make it regional, but it has to be relatable to everybody. So if you don't have that, then you have a problem. And that makes it even more difficult for the Dutch authors that don't work regional, but have less success regionally to get their work published, although it could be masterpieces. So yeah, difficult. Now, how does a publisher finds books to translate? Well, they go to things like the Frankfurter Buchmesse. This is maybe the largest fair in the world for professional publishing houses. Everybody goes there. They have all their works that they published that year, and they show it to their colleagues. So what they do is they walk around, they see, a Belgian publishing house, let's see what they have. And then for each book, they have a sort of a pitch, a short pitch, and relying on the pitch, if it works for them or not, if they like the sound of the story, then maybe they can be persuaded to buy it. Now, it's of course, if a book sells 100,000 copies, it's more interesting and more likely that you will choose that book instead of that little horror book that could be amazing but only sold 2,000 copies. So genre fiction anyways is more difficult to sell, that's for sure. Then you have also the lucky bastards like the Scandinavians. They had a couple of successes with TV shows like the Wallander series, and of course every publishing house sees that, and they want to have their own Wallander series. Then you have the series with Lisbeth Salander, for instance. So everybody is looking for Scandinavian crime fiction. Everybody loves it. Everybody reads it. So more and more translators teach themselves to translate those works. That you have to. So a lot of Scandinavian crime novelists, practically everybody, I think, gets translated because it's so popular around the world. You have, of course, always exceptions like Thomas Oldeheuvelt, who is a Dutch author, and he is quite famous now with his Hex series and stuff like that, and November and whatever. So there are exceptions, but they are very small, those exceptions. And then you have the talent pool that you have at home. So suppose I am a Belgian publisher, I want to translate something from Finnish to Dutch. Well, the choice of translators who are capable of doing a really, really, really good job is small. So, yeah, because translation is a lot more than just translating a text. You also have to adapt the culture and the voice of that. You have to capture the voice of the author, and that's so difficult because you have temperaments and you have visions, and maybe the translator has a completely different vision about gay people than the translator. How do you do that? You have a lot of things to consider. It's like a poker game, getting books translated. It works or it doesn't work. So and you also have things like Ukraine, for instance. I have here Andrei Kurkov, Grey Bees. Grey Bees was published during the beginning of the war in Ukraine, and everybody bought it because they want to read about Ukraine and support Ukraine and Ukrainian authors. They also translated this book in Dutch, and it was absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. It had to go too fast. It was full of mistakes, full of typos. It was horrible. It was unreadable. Yeah, it's stupid, but they sold a book, but nobody will ever read a second Andrei Kurkov. Nobody. So it's difficult. It's difficult, and because also it's impossible for the publishing houses to have somebody in-house that speaks every language of the world. That's impossible. So they have to rely on their translators. And not everybody is as talented. Now, I see already a huge difference from English to Dutch. The translations before the year 2000 were way worse than we have now. Then it's mostly picobello. It's mostly perfectly done because there's internet. They have a lot of. They can look up a lot of stuff. They can look up and educate themselves about local cultures and local habits and local sayings and stuff like that, and it's easier to find things. It's easier to contact colleagues. I will probably know people who are doing the same in England that translate from Dutch to English, so we can change notes. And then you have, of course, literary fiction will be funded by the Dutch government, for instance, if you translate it to English or French or whatever, or another country will fund it. That's why, for instance, translations from French to English take so long. Not because there's no talent, but because the funding takes so long. And sometimes the publishing houses take a risk and they pay for it themselves because they know it will be a hit, like Thomas Oldeheuvelt or the Scandinavian fiction authors. So there's a lot at play here, and of course, is everything translated? No, because it's sometimes impossible. A joke that works in UK doesn't necessarily work in Dutch, for instance. or in French, or yeah. For instance, in Belgium, we had a book that was very popular and sold tons, was War and Turpentine. The English translator used a tone of voice that was very highbrow and very arrogant in a way, and it didn't work in English. It didn't work at all. So yeah, it was. You have a lot of things to consider. If the translator is capable of translating the author's personality and his pen, really. So yeah, I hope this was a good answer. Genre fiction is less likely to be translated from smaller languages to bigger languages because it is not as highly valued, and often the markets are too small. So yeah, there you go. I hope you like this answer. If not, drop me a line. It's what it is, and money makes the world go round, I guess. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.